The unexpected news that came from the Vatican greeted the globe as it awakened on Easter Monday. Soon after his appearance in front of thousands of faithful in St. Peter's Square for Easter Sunday celebrations, Pope Francis, the 266th leader of the Catholic Church, has passed away at the age of 88. His death came just hours after his appearance. It was reported by Cardinal Farrell that the pontiff, who had altered the papacy via his humility and concern on those who were marginalized, had returned to the house of the Father during his time there. This day we will discuss the final hours of the Pope, the practices that are associated with the death of a Pope, and how Francis, true to his character, altered many of these traditions that have been around for generations. There was no one who could have anticipated the unexpected turn of events. Pope Francis made an appearance in front of tens of thousands of Catholics who had assembled in St. Peter's Square for Easter Sunday Mass. This occurred just 24 hours before he passed away. The people were blessed by him, despite the fact that he was visibly frail and was confined to a wheelchair. He waved to the devout as he was driven about the area, pausing many times to bless the infants that were brought to him. The speech that he presented on Easter, which was delivered by an assistant while he was sitting and observing, condemned the immense hunger for death that is observed in global conflicts and appealed for peace in Gaza and Ukraine. The words that he would say to the world in public would be his last. As Easter Monday approached, Pope Francis passed away at the Vatican just a few hours later at 7:35 a.m. local time. Since February, when he was admitted to the hospital for pneumonia in both lungs, the pontiff's health had been deteriorating. This condition was made worse by the partial lung removal that he had undergone when he was a young man in Argentina. In spite of his problems, very few people anticipated that he would pass away so soon after his public appearance at Easter. When the news broke, Davide Giglione, a correspondent for the BBC, recounted seeing people hurrying towards St. Peter's Square, with some of them openly wailing in the streets of Rome. The path that Jorge Mario Bergoglio took to become Pope was certainly not traditional from the very beginning. He was born in Buenos Aires to Italian immigrants who had fled fascism prior to joining the Jesuits. He worked as a chemical technician and as a bouncer at nightclubs. He finally became the first non-European Pope in nearly 300 years, the first from the Americas and the first Jesuit to occupy the throne of St. Peter. He rose through the ranks and eventually became the first Pope to come from the Americas. Pope Francis reimagined what it meant to be a Pope over the course of his 11-year reign as Pope. Instead of settling into the conventional papal residences, he decided to make his home in the Vatican guest house. A fervent champion for the underprivileged migrants and the environment he bathed, the feet of inmates embraced those who were disfigured and advocated for the environment. During his final Easter sermon, he encapsulated the entirety of his life's work by advocating for the freedom of religion, opinion, and expression. He also pleaded for peace in areas of conflict and offered assistance to starving people who have aspirations of a future of peace. After the death of a pope, a series of meticulously orchestrated actions are triggered, and these events have largely stayed constant for centuries until the death of Pope Francis. By saying the Pope's baptismal name 3 times, the Camerlengo Chamberlain is the one who traditionally verifies the death of a pope. When the Pope passes away, following the absence of any reaction, the Camerlengo declares that the Pope has indeed passed away. The fisherman's ring that belonged to the Pope is then destroyed, which serves as a symbol of the end of his authority. Within the span of 24 hours, the body is customarily embalmed and then put on a catafalque, which is an elevated platform in St. Peter's Basilica, for the purpose of public display. According to the custom, popes were traditionally laid to rest in 3 nested coffins, made of cypress, lead, and oak. Each of these coffins represented a distinct facet of the papal office. But Francis, in keeping with the simplicity that he had maintained throughout his life, rewrote these customs. He gave his approval to the plans for a funeral and burial that were less lavish. He decided to go with a straightforward wooden coffin that was lined with zinc rather than 3 coffins. Additionally, he did away with the custom of exhibiting his body on a catafalque, choosing instead to remain within the coffin with the lid removed so that mourners might pay their respects. He will be the first pope in more than a century to be laid to rest outside of the Vatican, which is perhaps the most noteworthy fact about Francis. Francis will be laid to rest at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, which is one of Rome's 4 major papal basilicas, rather than in the Vatican grottos beneath St. Peter's Basilica, where his predecessors were laid to rest. The decision that Francis made illustrates his profound devotion to Mary, as well as his wish to maintain a connection to the people of Rome, even after he had passed away. As a suitable final resting place for a pope who persistently pushed the church to go beyond its boundaries and into the edges of society, the basilica is located in the center of the city, making it accessible to anyone who wishes to pay their respects. Tributes were pouring in from all around the world as the news of the Pope's passing circulated throughout the world. The significant influence that Francis had on international events was acknowledged by world leaders, regardless of their political or religious beliefs. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, remarked on the fact that he was able to inspire millions of people by virtue of his modesty and his love that was so unadulterated for those who were fortunate. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, made the following remark: "I had the privilege of enjoying his friendship." She went on to say that Francis had requested the bravery to change his course of action from the entire world. J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, extended his condolences to the millions of Christians all over the globe who adored the Pope by saying that his heart goes out to them. Vance had met with the Pope just hours before he passed away. Stephen Cottrell, the Archbishop of York, recalled Francis as a holy man of God who was also very human, humorous, vivacious, and a pleasure to be with. Additionally, Francis was a good person to be around. The conclave is the name given to the gathering of the College of Cardinals in Rome, which will take place in the coming days with the purpose of electing Francis' successor. Following a period of 9 days of mourning, the cardinals will enter the Sistine Chapel, where they will remain in seclusion until they elect a new pope with a majority of 2/3. As soon as a decision is made, a cloud of white smoke will rise from the chimney of the chapel. It is expected that the well-known proclamation, "Habemus Papam," "We have a pope," would be heard throughout St. Peter's Square. Following in the footsteps of a pope who was a voice for peace, compassion, and concern for those who are most vulnerable, the new pontiff will be faced with the difficult challenge of following a pope who was responsible for transforming the papacy and who remained until his final Easter speech. The passing of Pope Francis during this Easter season and Jubilee year, when millions of pilgrims are anticipated to visit Rome in search of forgiveness, lends a poignancy to a situation that was already solemn. The Pope, who is famous for saying that he came from the ends of the earth, brought about a shift in the Catholic Church and touched the hearts of people who believed in and did not believe in the Catholic Church. Francis leaves behind a legacy that pushes all of us to, as he frequently stated, create bridges, not walls, and to remember those who are on the edges of society. As the bells of St. Peter's toll in sadness and the faithful come to pay their goodbyes, Francis leaves behind a legacy that challenges us all. Considering that he chose the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of the poor, his ultimate journey continues to uphold the same level of simplicity and humility that characterized his time as Pope. It is in death that Pope Francis continues to teach us about the fundamental nature of religion and service, just as he did in life. Over the next few days, millions of people will be watching as cardinals convene for the conclave that will determine who will eventually succeed him. The question is, who will be selected to follow in the revolutionary footsteps of Francis? How will the Church continue to develop in the face of the enormous changes that are occurring in our world? When the papal funeral and the historic conclave that follows it take place, we will provide you with unique coverage of both events. Not only for Catholics, but also for our community as a whole, this is a moment of critical importance. In the event that you found this insightful look into the traditions of the Vatican to be helpful, please click the subscribe button right now in order to be informed about this historic change in power. In order to help us reach more people with this significant topic, your likes and comments are really helpful. Thus, please take a moment to express your opinions below. Our channel subscribers have access to exclusive information, which includes expert interviews with Vatican insiders, historical analysis of previous papal transitions, and real-time updates from our crew on the ground in Rome. This content is intended for people who are interested in going deeper into what is going on. Click the join button down below to become a member of our organization right away. If you know anyone who is interested in this historic moment, whether they are following it for religious reasons or simply because they are fascinated by the way these centuries-old customs are being carried out in our modern world, please share this video with them. You are appreciated for watching. Our name is Storybox and we are reporting at the Vatican City.